Welcome to Laugh, Cry, or Die, a comedy disability podcast hosted by two disabled heaps of human crap.
We should have like a big drum roll and music and stuff for that. We need a song.
No, there will have been a song at the front. This is the magic of editing. You haven't heard the song yet. It's very good.
Okay.
It's very progressive.
I look forward to it.
It's basically 7.5 minutes of really intense EDM.
Perfect. That
Just
sounds great.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and
like
if
a
that
drill.
doesn't bring in the listeners, I don't know what will.
Well, it'll
Kill or cure.
This is why we don't work in marketing.
Yeah.
My name is Steve Wilbury, and I have complex regional pain syndrome. And with me, as always, is Naomi Strain.
Hello there. I am also a professional spaz with a seizure disorder.
Hooray for you.
Oh, how
We
exciting.
don't work in modern society. So we made a podcast.
General.
She can't. How many Naomis does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Yeah, don't. It hurts.
I was going to say just one, because like something about the spinning from the seizures, there's something funny.
What, I just hold on to the light bulb and my body will spin and turn it?
Yeah, basically, you don't need a ladder.
Just hanging off a light bulb.
Just hanging off a light bulb, as you do. Never do light bulb pull-ups.
Yeah.
So if you're just joining us for the first time, this show is a space for Naomi and I to talk about and vent about the many foibles of being a disabled person in this workaday modern world, what that really means, what having invisible illness is, and space to vent, and a space for other people to listen in and chime in on the Discord or on the socials, and yeah, just a place for broken people to come together and complain.
And also taking it to occasionally dark and yet funny to us places.
Indeed. If you're not familiar with the comedy of a terminal cancer patient, then yeah, buckle your seatbelt, because when you have literally stared death in the face, there is nothing that is sacred.
We have taken the piss out of somebody for literally about to die. Yeah,
because she's such a she wasn't even here. I was gonna be, my friend's a moron because she has cancer. God, what a dork.
Well, I think one of the best things that came out of that was saying, when people say, oh, there's always someone worse off, it was her. She's the one that's always worse off. Phew.
The thing is, with her, there's the tetraplegic guy who we haven't even talked to. It could always be worse.
True.
Always.
Yeah, true.
What if you were a tetraplegic in Pakistan or Ukraine getting bombed?
Yeah,
I think
suck.
From that, I think the only thing probably worse than that maybe be like Somalia or like sub-Saharan Africa. But yeah, you could be living in the Middle Ages.
I mean, if we were living in the Middle Ages, I would definitely be tried for witchcraft or some kind of demonic possession, because people occasionally, like even in this modern day and age with intelligent, supposedly people around, there have been people that thought there is a demonic element to my seizures. Like in one place of work, they which I won't mention, I had a seizure and they had to get a lady in from the epilepsy organization to talk about what seizures are all about, because some people were scared that they thought there was something demonic or something, I can't even think of the word, that's not human,
supernatural,
something supernatural, about what was going on. And they had to explain, don't be scared of her. Little do they know it is demonic possession.
That's amazing.
I know, right?
You know what you should have done? You missed a big thing there, where you should have just, when you weren't having a seizure, like in the break room, just spit pea soup all over this person's face.
True, and then I'd have been a sex.
Your mother sucks cocks now, and then like scuttle on the ceiling.
And if that's not going to get you a pay rise, I don't know what is.
Again, this is why we don't have jobs.
Yeah, I don't think our spazziness is the only reason we don't have jobs. I also think our personalities come into it as well.
Well, I was talking to some friends of mine they're pretty neurospicy, as we like to say. And I was saying that I don't think I really am that neurospicy. I've got a touch, you know, we're all on the spectrum somewhere. But I think the pain disease and just the volume of trauma that I've been through have really it fucks with your neurology.
It does, I think, shape who you are. Like, as much as we don't want to be the disorders, it does shape how we cope with things. And because it's not the everyday way of coping with things that, you know, society expects, then it does have that element of the neurospicy to it, because we cope differently, we process differently. And not everybody can understand that. So in normal sort of situations, we may come across as a little different. That sounds very PC. Oh, they're just a little different.
That's, you know what, I'm gonna get that put on a t-shirt for you. It just says I'm a little different, and the little's in a slightly different font. It's just like just a little different, just a wee.
I like it. And that will be on our online shop in the near future.
Yeah, you can get a mouse mat with I'm a little different on it. I'll put it on, you know, we need to put that on the show notes, so that gets to the producer and then she sorts that out. Dear listeners, we have both a producer and an editor now, and I'm feeling uncomfortably like this is a real thing.
We are so fancy.
I know. There's other people involved in our shit. It's not just me slaving away.
It's just chatting crap in our lounges.
But it is. But it still is. If anybody is watching these streams on YouTube, you'll notice the different background behind me, and that I now no longer live in a house bus. I have upgraded to a cabin that has, and get this, wait for it, not only a flushing toilet, but a dishwasher, like a millionaire.
That's fancy as.
There is no sink in the kitchen, but you know, there's what's technically called a fish bait station outside. It's got a tank.
Nice. And you can always fill your kettle up from your dishwasher, I suppose.
No, there's water in the bathroom, and there's a really nice shower. It's just got this weird little quirk. But it's hell of an upgrade from the hallway, I tell you that.
Cool. I bet that's loads warmer and stuff as well where you are.
It's got these really big sliding windows, which is lovely. But they do lose a lot of heat, and I'm pretty sure it's insulated. But you know, it's rustic. It's nice.
Does it make your pain and issues and things more manageable? Because if you've got a sort of a bit more of a, I don't know, spacious place, or a bit easier to access, things like that, does it help you? No.
I think I feel better because we'd been in that bus for 5 years, and I was feeling tight and cramped. And now I have just a little, and like, you know, it used to be if Rachel wanted to take a nap, I couldn't do the dishes because I'm clattering around in the kitchen and stuff. And so just having a little bit, and I have a desk now that's got like some musical instruments on it that I noodle around with that I would not have this place. And even the other night, Lewis was in his room watching a movie. Rachel was watching something in the bedroom, and then I was in the living room, and we each had our own like just little bubble to just have some space and decompress a bit. So I think really for that, it's also been definitely key in helping Lewis heal from his crips. So for people who were listening last term, I'll do that update. It was last term, but it was last season. New Zealand tends to operate on school terms. It's a very strange system.
And not having children myself, I tend not to work on those terms because it would be unusual if I followed the dates of when school holidays were.
That would be weird if you, as a single, normal human being, were really interested in that.
All the children are out. What?
Yeah, do you notice when it's school holidays, there's just like more kids around?
I notice at the gym because there tends to be a lot of sort of the older, you know, teenagers and stuff out from school, and they don't know how to use a gym properly. They have no etiquette, and I get all high and mighty and harsh about it all. How dare they infiltrate on my safe space?
Well, you are a classy lady.
I really am. I'm a proper grown-up lady. But no,
I
but the
know.
gym, as you know, the gym is my safe space. That's
Yes.
what keeps my my day-to-day manageable, and it gives me that boost when all around is falling apart. So when these children get in the way, that no, it's good, and the young people should do exercise, and it's wonderful, and it's a family orientated space,
You know what
etc.
you should do? You know what you should do? You should go up to them and be like, have you guys ever thought about just sitting on the benches and staring at your phones?
And smoking.
And smoking?
At the
They're
very
cool.
least, vaping, because vaping is it's like a starter kit for smoking. That's how you get into it. It's a bit like how your RTDs or Alco Pops, depending on where you're listening from, they're like starter booze for when you want to hit the hardcore stuff. You have to introduce children to the light things first. So vaping and
Yeah,
Alco.
no, the first time I got drunk, I remember I went to a pub and I just moved to London. And I was like, and as a 16-year-old moving from the suburbs in St. Louis, the idea that you could just go into the middle of a city by yourself, go to a drinking establishment and get served was mind blowing.
Oh, really?
But at the time, because I never had the opportunity to try it, I was like, I don't drink alcohol. I'd had a few sips of beer. I didn't enjoy it. My friend was like, oh no, just get an apple hooch. It's like apple juice. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had like 6 of them. I was like, fucking A, bro. This is amazing.
RTDs are fantastic.
May have also had sex for the first time that night. That was the best night of my young life.
The highlight of your entire life.
Yeah, it was. The first time you have sex is always just perfect. It's really great. But like that first time is I saw a thing. It was like, I don't get the obsession with having sex with virgins. It's like playing tennis with a toddler. Why would you? It's pointless.
That's wonderful.
I don't generally throw that one around. I thought this was a safe space, Naomi.
It is a safe space, yes.
Never, you know what? There's safe space, and then there's just shut the fuck up, Steve.
And there's dark rooms that you shouldn't go in.
There's safe space, and then there's online spaces.
Yes, yeah. They're only visited with the curtains closed and the doors locked. Those rooms.
And your eyes screwed shut.
Yeah.
I have been to the darker reaches of the internet and seen links to things that I don't want to see. And I'm like, that is staying.
Yes. I remember when you were showing me various aspects of the internet that are darker, and one of your bits of advice was, don't click on those links. Those with those prefixes, don't go on those ones. And like, that was good advice. I didn't. I
spent some time hanging around the dark web, or the onion net, or the Tor network, as it's technically known. And yeah, it's full of jaw-dropping scams and things that say CP on it, and you're like, fuck no,
don't click on those.
Just
and
like, it's a real
and I do think it's much safer to stick to hiring hitmen and buying false documentation. I think that's much safer.
No, that was great. There's a funny website, and it's the literal thing is like, send us your bitcoins and we'll send you gold.
Of course.
Like, did you though?
Yeah.
Did you?
I like the reviews. It's like an Amazon of drugs.
Yeah, like, well, Silk Road was the first big one. I was because I was trying to buy cannabis for my pain disease via the dark web. There is like what is now $15,000 worth of Bitcoin that the FBI own, because my Bitcoin was on one of those markets that got taken down. And it was the best. It was the classiest thing I'd ever seen. There were, like you say, there were literally Amazon reviews. And you could go through and be like, this is good stuff, this is clean, and then check another guy and you're like, oh, he's not got any reviews, his account's quite new, maybe I won't send him any money.
Like fast delivery, great product, free pen.
Literally that. Like, I had a great weekend. It tested clean, it was great. And you're like, why is this not how things are done? It seems very silly to me.
It was a real eye-opener. But like I said, my favorite thing was being able to hire a hitman. And it made me think, if like if you were to commit suicide, the most exciting way to do it would be to hire a hitman to get you and get them to not tell you when it was going to happen. How exciting would that be?
I think what would be even more exciting would be to see if you could get the hitman first.
Yeah, that would
And
be
just
ace fun. I
be
like
like,
it.
okay, here's my name and my like driver's license number, whatever. You give me yours, and then we'll go.
There's got to be a TV show in that.
And then at some point you meet in like a cafe in Buenos Aires and you're both pointing guns at each other under a table. It's that
I like
right
it. But if you were to hire a hitman to kill yourself, obviously that's illegal. But so is suicide. Technically, suicide's illegal.
No, not in New Zealand.
Oh, is it not?
No.
Oh, brilliant. All right, I'll see you later then. I didn't realize.
Jack plays.
But what would you be arrested for? Like, if you're hiring a hitman to kill yourself, like, you're not endangering anybody else. Like, who's most in trouble? Who would get the longest in prison? You or the hitman?
They would still get in trouble for murder, because I think there's like, even
what if they were unsuccessful though? What if they didn't actually get you?
Then it's attempted murder.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's like, I can't remember what I heard where it's like attempted murder. Do they give a Nobel Prize for attempted physics?
Yeah. Can't get time for your rubbish at your job.
Yeah.
I won't leave a good review for a hitman if he doesn't get me.
For real. For real.
If he does get me, I'll leave him a wonderful glowing review.
That's the other part of it, is that if he does get you, you'll have like a time release thing that he will get a good review on his website.
Or maybe the best review of a hitman is that he's got no reviews because he's been successful at all targets. Though he would then have to specialize in only doing hits on suicidal people.
I think that's a pretty niche market.
It really is, isn't it?
And if you want to be really successful, you have to be white. That's what I've learned about business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you're a white middle-aged man. Why are you not more successful? It's been handed to you, Steve. Come on.
I'm going to say the paper. That's the worst part, is that I should be. There are so many jobs I've had that I've lost because of my illnesses. There are companies that I would own equity in.
Yeah,
that I have helped build.
And see, despite appearances, you are a very intelligent man. And you are very talented in many areas. Make the most of this, because I'm not always going to be this nice.
Oh, but no, this is going my wank bank for sure.
But you have lots of skills. You're experienced in lots of different areas, lots of interesting, fun areas like your comedy and your fencing and just your brain and the way that you care for people. So you've done lots of different jobs, and you could be like rolling in it with all of those wonderful facets to you, and yet you're not.
I actually have a bit where it's like, I am too old to be this poor. Like, this is not, and I know that like our entire generation feels like that.
You technically should be a lot more successful than you are.
Yes, I should be, but every time, until I really understood what was really wrong with me, I would get a job and I would do as well as I could, and I would push myself hard, and I would do all the things that I was told would lead to success. You work hard and good things will come. And then my body would either literally break, in the terms of like having a double pop disc in my neck, or my pain disease would completely overcome everything about me and I would just fall apart. And it's called boom and bust cycle, where you push yourself, you grit your teeth, you get through it until there comes a point when your body just sits you the fuck down. And it's like, there is a disorder here and you need to stop doing this.
And I think having that mentality of trying to push yourself does you no favors. Like, I was recently, actually yesterday, watching some footage that I took of myself that I recorded when I got back from hospital after a seizure, and I wanted to catch what my emotion was like when I was in that sort of dark aftermath of it. And it was actually really sad to watch, because I'm not that person, but it was like, oh, this person's really sad when I was watching it. But one of the things that I said in that, excuse me, was that after a seizure, what I should do is sit and relax and recover.
Mm,
But I end up doing twice as much because one, I have to catch up on what I was supposed to do that day. And then I have to achieve what I'd got planned for the following day.
mm,
And I also sort of psychologically need to throw myself back into stuff. So
mm.
after a seizure, when your body should be recovering, I'm actually doing 2 or 3 times more than I would do normally, and absolutely really
Mm.
forcing myself and pushing myself into stuff. And it's a vicious cycle, because then that doesn't help with kind of not having the next seizure. If your
Well,
body's
yeah, because then
always fighting.
you're getting wound up. Your nervous system is not ready to recover, and you're just pushing yourself past your whatever threshold is
Yeah,
inside you
yeah.
that triggers those seizures.
I mean,
I
eventually
find
at one point it'll
one of
just
the
drop
things I
dead.
found that I've really like is a little bit of a brick this collector. I've been using, cannabis to help control my pain for years.
Hmm.
And you get into this thing where you use it very reflexively. You're like, I don't like this, so I want my situation to change, and you have the cannabis. But I've noticed that if I use it when I'm not really supposed to be using it, my heart rate starts pounding. And I'm
Oh,
thinking, like,
really?
you're trying to wind your nervous system down to not overreact to things. And instead, you're going, hey, put your lungs in a fire to your body, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
wonder
like,
if
I
there's
vape,
any. I wonder if there's
so
any
it's not
kind
as
of
bad.
psychological, perhaps, aspect to that as well. Like if you normally use it for pain relief, and so when your body's stressed, if you then use it when your body's not stressed, is your brain primed to connect the two?
Mm. These are like, this is the way you have to kind of think about this stuff.
Mm,
And
mm.
the answer is probably maybe. So I've
That's
really
very
cut
definitive.
down. Yeah. So I've really cut right down from where I was at, because when the boy was sick, I was really just leaning on it hard, which I should
Mm,
probably give
mm.
an update to the boy
Yeah,
from
yeah.
last
What's going
season.
on there?
So last season, towards the end, my son woke up with a numb foot. He couldn't feel his left foot from his shin down. And we took him to the hospital, and the initial thought was that it was a demyelinating illness. So you can have weird virus symptoms where the
Mm,
sheaths around your nerves get damaged.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then the thought was that it might be something like MS. And they did scans and spinal taps and came back clean. They said, oh, he'll probably just get better. But then he kept getting worse and worse and worse. He couldn't weight bear on his left leg. He couldn't bear the touch of his jeans on his legs. Like
Wow,
just like there's this thing called allodynia, where just light touch turns into a blowtorch, really,
wow, wow. So everything's on real
Um,
high alert.
exactly.
Mm.
And they eventually said that he has complex regional pain syndrome, which is the same thing that I have, and my sister has it, and my son has it, and it's not supposed to be genetic, but there are apparently some family clusters that pop up like this.
Yeah, yeah. Lucky you.
Um, and so moving into the cabin was part of his rehab, was getting out of the bus, making him walk further, just use his legs more. And I used all the stuff that I'd learned in my pain camp and my experience to just try and get him slightly
Yeah,
functional, to not
yeah.
let that downward slide into pain disability really happen.
Just
And because kids,
on that with you saying that you used your skills,
mm,
we did have a chat with Lewis, and he, for a kid to come out with what he said was very impressive, that he could put his pain and his issues into perspective because he could see what you go through.
mm,
And his sort of logic was, if dad can do this, so can I.
mm.
And that's a really big thing for a young person to come
No,
out with. He
he's a
wasn't used to
really
that.
he's a really really cool kid. We're
Mm,
very very lucky
yeah.
to have the boy that we do. And yeah, and we got through it because kids' brains are so much more neuroplastic. We're doing acupuncture and heat therapy and just as much stuff as we could, and keeping him a little bit active without stressing his system too much.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the last day of the school term, he put his crutch down and said, no, I think I can run today. and
Wow.
then was running at the bus stop with his huge smile on his face because he hadn't felt the wind in his face for 3 months.
That is so sweet. That's
Um,
amazing.
it's not to say that there weren't, breakdowns and, just holding him while he's crying and trying
Yeah.
to get through everything. But I think because Lewis sees both me and his mother, we're honest about our emotions and what's going on and if we're sad or if we're upset. And knowing that the grown-ups around him get sad and then you're not sad for a while, or you're upset and you just kind of don't don't hide them and don't hold on to them and just kind of let them be,
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
was much more able to get through those big emotional zip bursts is what we
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
And
call
that's like when we've touched on things before, that there is an upside, as sort of dark as it can be, to what we go through,
them.
because it does make you look at things in a different way. It does make you appreciate or understand things a little more. Like, I know for me personally, I'm less judgmental if I see somebody on the street being a bit weird. Like before my seizures, were a big thing, I would just be like, meh, drunk, meh, drugs, whatever. Whereas now I do pause and think, maybe that person needs a bit of help. Maybe they're, about to have a seizure. Maybe they're
Mm.
in a seizure, you just don't know. And so the upside to my stuff is that I do look at people with a more sympathetic eye. I like to think I've always done to an extent.
Mm.
But the upside, is
Yeah,
that it
but I
makes you
think
more aware of people around you. So I think what you've gone through, and are going through, it
mm,
does help with the behavior you model for Lewis and the
yeah,
things that
yeah,
you understand
definitely,
with.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
So he got through that and he's healed now. He's had a really quite a profound experience for a young person, and he's better and he's back at school, and yeah, he's a
Th-
9-year-old kid again.
Does he seem completely healed?
Yeah, unaffected.
Wow. Were the doctors, etc., expecting that?
In general, in kids, Crips tends to get better.
Right.
It tends to last for a few months, but if you use what we understand about it now, and I mean, it probably would have gone quicker if we'd gotten in to see a specialist service, which just for various reasons never really ended up happening. But there's stuff like using mirrors to trick your brain and
Right.
like using visualizations, and there's all these things that we now know is how you remap your nervous system, you know?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But he just healed on his own because we kept him active and because he's young.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Did you find, like, I know sometimes medical professionals can sort of drop the ball here and there, and I've had a lot of sort of judgment and issues and things I've had to go through with them. But was
Mm.
there any aspect of it that, because you have Crips, was it ever suggested that he was following your lead in your diagnosis, like the
The
psychological?
only the only thing that did come up was he had the same tics. They call them myclonic jerks is the technical term,
Yeah, yeah.
where he would be like sitting there and it's like someone would like poke you with a pin. So you flinch. There are these like
Hmm.
flinches of just pain just sparking off.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was someone did at some point kind of like, oh, maybe he's modeling his dad on this. But now that he doesn't have pain, he doesn't do it. And it made me
Right.
feel better because I'm like, oh, it's not, even if it was just part of my psychology or something, it's still part of the disease. But
Yes.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
no, it is definitely like there's something going on with our family's version of Crips stuff
Yes. Yeah.
that
Did your
makes you
sister have the
twitch.
same thing with tics and stuff?
I don't know, to be honest. She had a really bad run. She also got very badly disserved by the American medical establishment,
Mm.
and they were giving her enormous doses of opiates, which are ineffective
Right.
profoundly for central sensitization pain. And you can actually get this thing called opiate induced hyperalgesia,
Mm. What's
which
that?
is where you take too many opiates and your nervous system responds negatively to it. So you're actually getting pain from the opiates. So
Wow. Okay.
because everything gets depressed so much with the opiates, everything is really loud. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I guess
It's a weird analogy.
that's then like a sort of vicious cycle because you're in more pain, so you take more drugs, which gives you
Yeah,
more
and
pain.
then so the drugs drown everything out, but then if everything is getting drowned out by the drugs, then light becomes much more a bigger spike compared to the
Right.
background noise, right?
Yeah. So you haven't got that sort of filter, that soft focus.
That
Mm.
exactly. So you're so flat because of the morphine. And she had, I think, 2 fentanyl patches at one point.
Wow. Okay.
They were talking about putting a pump in, like to just feed opiates into her spine. You're like, geez,
Wow.
you really don't understand what's going on here. Um, but I think she's doing okay now.
That's good.
Ish.
That's good.
She has a spinal cord stimulator that really helps because hers is like from a specific nerve. But anyway,
Is that like a TENS machine thing?
yeah. So most Crips cases, there's like a direct injury that's resulted in the pain disorder. So for hers, I'm she won't care if I'm telling her story.
She
A
might not even
needle
know.
a needle went through her femoral nerve. So when she shattered her knee in a sledging accident because she lived in Alaska.
Cool.
And then they put all the screws in her knee, and then they went to do a nerve block. And normally what you do is you get the needle close to the nerve and then you release the chemical so it goes around the nerve.
Mm.
This anesthetist put the needle through her femoral nerve. So actually like stabbed the nerve,
Damn.
which is not supposed to happen.
Mm.
And
Is that when are you unconscious when that happens? Is it like
yeah, she was unconscious when that happens.
yeah.
And then yeah, it just snowballed from there. She woke up and then her knee was still sore, and then her knee was still really sore, and then her knee was killing her, and then they figured out what was going on. And yeah, because it was America, she got a big payout from the doctors, like a malpractice thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, because she's not a child, her system is less neuroplastic, and because that kind of integrated pain management that exists in civilized countries with national pain services doesn't really exist in the States.
Right. Okay. So it's
And
kind
one
of
of the
even with the conversation and everything, it's still kind of left to her own devices to off you go.
I
And
think there are some services that exist, but like here in New Zealand, I went from my doctor to the local pain specialists and then got referred to the national pain specialists. And one of the things that they like to point out in the pain clinic is that we wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't evidence that it worked because they're government funded.
right.
So
Yeah.
they have to prove that the methods they're using help get people back into the workforce or they wouldn't get the money that they do.
Yeah.
Whereas in the States, they get the money as long as somebody's coming into their office, you know?
Right. So they can come up
So it
with any old
doesn't
bullshit
matter
or
if
any old
they're,
crap. And
yeah, it doesn't matter
yeah.
if they're selling you crack that's making you worse, if they're giving you fentanyl patches that are slowly killing you,
Yeah.
because they're still getting their money from the insurance company. So it's really sad state of affairs in America. And one day it will all be on fire and I will be sad. But
Oh, completely. Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's good being in other countries because you do get the healthcare, but also you don't get the big compensation payouts.
yeah, but she's on disability now, and
Right.
she has a house and stuff, but stuff like, so if she lived in New Zealand, she wouldn't have gotten the big payout, but she would be on ACC for the rest of her life. She would have a home help who comes and like helps clean her house. She would have a support worker.
Yeah.
And she could have that if with her payout she managed to pay for her own home help kind of stuff, but it's not part of society, as it were, that
Yes.
like if
Yeah.
you're broken you get help.
Yeah.
It's just not there.
And that's it. Yeah. I suppose that doesn't help with the taboo either, is that, you're screwed and deal with it on your own. And you are, even though, you might have the compensation to be able to afford it, you're still marginalized. You're not part of that accepted.
Very much. And also, the payout that she got wasn't that much. I can't actually remember the number, but it was like it was like, oh yeah, that's enough. But then you're like, but that has supposed to last her like the rest of her life.
Yes. Yeah. And as well, if you've got like a disability or, whatever, that payout may just go towards having a roof over your head. Again,
Exactly.
the
It just
stability of a house.
I think she owns her house. It was enough to like buy a house flat, but then she really struggles to pay the property taxes because all the money that she got went into the house.
Yes. Yeah.
And then she gets these big property tax bills and her income's not big enough to pay for the taxes because the place she bought the house, because she's a square peg trying to fit into a round hole.
Yes.
Yeah. A normal person who could own that kind of a house would be able to afford those property taxes.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But she's a broken person just like us. So
not fun.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably the end of episode 1, series 2 of Laugh Cry Die. How exciting.
It's great.
Yeah, we'll get more into I'm sure you had some really fun hospital adventures over the break, and we'll get more into those next time, I think.
Excellent. Yes, I have a few.
Were there any more like just sitting and getting stared at for hours on end?
No, but we will talk about that one because that was an unusual one. But yeah, mostly in the last sort of couple of weeks, it's been just injuries and falling down.
Injuries and falling down.
And my most recent one, pissing myself. Hey!
Hooray!
And I'll just tell you that before we wrap up, is that waking up in hospital, having pissed yourself and a lot, and lying in a lovely wet bed in your jeans, which are the worst thing to piss yourself in.
No, bad.
And then obviously you've got to get home, and so they bring you clothes to wear, which is awesome. And it's like, oh, donated clothes, but also dead person's clothes. They might not be, but that's always in my head that probably are.
Did you ask the doctor? Were you like...
No, but one time a while back when I did again piss myself, and one of the paramedics who I know quite well, he'd driven past, that's a whole nother story anyway, and he picked me up and he went, nice dead person's clothes. And so I don't think it always is just donated clothes, or perhaps donated by the family when the person...
That would be if the paramedic noticed that was on a person that he had brought to the hospital as dead.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
That would be weird.
Or if the family were, that's grandma's dress.
Oh my God, can you imagine how many ghosts you must have brought home?
Thanks for that, Steve.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And maybe we'll do a ghost hunting podcast next season.
Yeah, it's an offshoot. Yeah, let's do a side quest.
Naomi's haunted hotel, because your house looks like a hotel.
I've got a new sofa that I'm very, very pleased with, because in the 3-seat bit, the center console folds down and it's got cup holders. Nice. And it's also got lights and USB and plugs in it. I know you won't be able to see some podcast. Look at that. That's the center console of my sofa. I know.
You can actually watch the podcast on YouTube.
And if you do, you'll be lucky enough to see my sofa.
It's really nice.
If that's not a bribe enough, if you're in two minds, then go and see my sofa.
Yeah, be like, should I go and subscribe to their channel and check out Naomi's sofa? The answer is yes. Your life will be better.
Even disabled people can have nice things. Not many.
Yeah, not many. And they won't stay nice for long. Something will spill or go free.
This is one of my thoughts, is that because it's so nice and fresh and lovely, I have spent some nights sitting on the floor because I don't want to sit on my new sofa. I don't want to throw drinks on it.
You know what you need is those like plastic slip covers like Grands used to have in the 90s.
Yeah. See, that kind of defeats the object of having a lovely sofa, is to cover it in plastic piss sheets.
I knew someone and they legit had a little plastic strip on their carpet that you were supposed to walk on to get through the room.
That seemed to be quite a big thing in the sort of 70s in the UK, if I remember correctly. That was kind of, a very common thing. Like, don't touch the furniture. Have nice things, but don't use them.
Well, that's the general rule for being spaz. Right. See you guys next week.
Bye.